Hello everyone, Dr. Shabazz here, and I'm going to be giving you some information on your self-branding project. That project is actually going to be due October 13th. The schedule had it to be due on Tuesday, October 6th, but we're going to push that back a week because we had a guest speaker on this past Tuesday, and I think it was well worth the time that we spent. Ms. Saida Khan, who is a senior executive in terms of ethics and compliance for Walmart, gave us a very inspiring and insightful presentation on that particular field. And in my other class, we're actually having journals done on that topic, ethics in global business. So it is a very timely topic, and I'll actually do somewhat of an overview of some of the points that she made in her presentation. But what I want to do now is just take a look at the schedule real quick. Here you have the 29th, which was Tuesday, and we had our guest speaker. And on the 1st, which is Thursday, which is this video, you will be taking a quiz on chapter 4. Now, I shot a video last week that was on the 24th on chapter 4, so hopefully you have looked at that video and you have been reading or going through the material, because you want to make sure that you pace yourself and you use the methods that you've been learning through Guaranteed 4.0 to make sure that you're comprehending this information. We will have our next exam won't be until October 22nd, and you're probably saying, I have almost a month or 3 weeks before the next exam, so I'm good. And you may very well be good, but you want to make sure that you're keeping up and that you're not cramming 4 chapters in the weekend before the exam. That typically does not work. So as you can see, we have the self-branding briefing, which I'll be giving you in this video. We will also have a Zoom session next Tuesday on chapter 5, which is on marketing research and information systems. Not the most exciting topic in marketing, but indeed is one of the most critical. When you talk about marketing research, you're talking about the process of collecting data and trying to find out what that data means. Now, data is defined, if you take a computer science class, the textbooks will say data are raw facts. When you analyze that data and when you put some statistical software to the test of that data, it becomes information, right? So the data that you're getting, whether it be sales, whether it be your impressions and how many eyeballs that you have been able to reach, what does that data mean? And how can we make use of it? So marketing research plays a very crucial role when we talk about customer relationship management. And so that's what we'll be talking about in chapter 5. And then you'll have one of my favorite areas of marketing is consumer behavior. So that's next Thursday. We'll be dealing with consumer behavior, which is really steeped in psychology, social psychology. Why do people make the decisions they make in terms of purchasing? What draws people to these decisions? And why do they buy certain brands over others? What triggers these impulses for us to buy certain products? Very fascinating. And you'll also find that marketing organizations use a number of techniques. I won't say tricks, because if once you learn what they do, you might think that it's a trick, but these are actually techniques that have certainly been proven to work. And so that's where we're going. And I have made adjustments and I have uploaded the updated syllabus to reflect these changes. Next, I want to show you the self-branding project here. And I have also uploaded this in a PDF format. So this is the self-branding project. And this is going to be a very, I won't say easy, but it's going to be very intuitive. Let me just put it that way. Because you want to produce 4 documents, 2 of which you may already have. At least one you have, for sure. So first of all, you're going to come up with a career mission. What is your mission statement in life? What is it that you want to become when you grow up, right? So just like a company has a mission, you will have a mission. This is not saying something like, oh, well, by the time I'm 30, I want to be a billionaire, or I want to just be happy. Those are missions in life, but here we're talking about a career mission. And in a mission statement, it's important to be very specific. If you have a vague mission, then your assessment is going to be a lot more difficult, and it will also be vague as well. So you will have your mission. What is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to become in life? Your most grandiose goal, you put it out there and say, okay, this is where I want to go. You have your resume. That's the document that everybody has, right? You have your resume. You take it to all these virtual career fairs that are going on. We had one last week. There was another fair, I think, that was today. And it was either yesterday or today. And we had a study abroad fair today as well. I don't believe you needed a resume for that. But all of us have a resume, or a curriculum vitae is what they call it in the professional world, that shows your talents and your credentials, right? And that resume is a snapshot of where you are now. You will use that resume to do a SWOT analysis of yourself. You will assess your strengths, you will assess your weaknesses. Those are both your internal factors. Those are things you can readily control. You can control your strengths, you can control your weaknesses. Then you will assess your external factors, those things that may be opportunities that you can capitalize off of that will help you to reach your mission. And then those threats that may go against you reaching your mission. So you have to do a SWOT analysis based upon where you are now to help you reach the mission. So how are you going to shore up your weaknesses? Well, you're going to do a strategic plan. We saw FAMU's strategic plan, which was a 5-year plan, 2017 to 2022. That's a 5-year plan. You would do a 1-year plan, and that 1-year plan is designed to shore up those weaknesses that you have and turn them into strengths. And those strengths hopefully will lead you to accomplish your goal after you have realized your opportunities and mitigated your threats. And so that's how all this works. You have a chain of documents. You have the mission, you have the resume, which is where you are now, you have the assessment, which is the SWOT, which gives you an idea of how far or how close you are to reaching your mission, and maybe some things you need to do in order to prepare yourself. Maybe you've decided I need to learn a foreign language. So I will take a class or buy some software or do something so that you can get that competency. Or maybe I need a certification. Maybe I need to do a Six Sigma class. A lot of people are doing these certifications. Or maybe you want to do a prep course for law school, or maybe to take the GMAT, or maybe you want to go to med school or some other endeavor that will get you to the goal that you ultimately want to achieve. So those are the things, 4 documents that you're going to do. In each of your documents, you'll have a cover page, nice and fancy. You can be creative, but within that document, you will have your mission statement, you will have your SWOT analysis. Now, your mission statement is going to be either one sentence or it can be a paragraph. It varies. It's better if it's shorter and more succinct and precise, because that means that there's less room for misinterpretation. You're not reading a whole paragraph and trying to figure out, okay, what is it that they do now? What is the mission? You know exactly what it is and where you're going, and it makes it easier for you to develop a roadmap. And so you'll have those 4 documents. And so what I have here is just drawing a scenario that personal branding is something very important. Now, we all have brands that we like in terms of products, but we are also a brand. And so we have to present ourselves in ways that we want to provide value added for society, so to speak. And we want to present ourselves in a certain way so that we can get some of the results that we're looking to get. And so some of the things that you may look at your appearance as part of your self-improvement or your strategic plan. If you want to be a person that's a media personality, then you may have to consider aspects of your appearance. You might have to look at getting a certain wardrobe. You may look at getting certain types of fitness levels that you want to ensure that you look healthy and that you have a very good presence on camera, or whatever else that you're looking to do if you're in PR, or if you're going to be a broadcast personality. You may also look at things like getting personal professional accessories, business cards, resume, good resume paper, stationery, and I would be remiss if I didn't add that everyone needs a good ink pen. So when you go to these receptions, you need a good pen. This is a pen I got as part of it was a gift. But you need a good pen that if you're at a career fair, or if you're at an interview, or if you're someplace where information is going to be exchanged, then you need to have a pen that looks the part. Not one of these, because you got a lot of different pens out here. You don't want to pull out this kind of pen. You don't want to pull out this kind of pen. You want to pull out a pen that looks like you mean business. So I have a couple of pens here, but even a nice cross pen will do. Or this, you don't have to go Mont Blanc. Mont Blanc's are very nice pens. You can get a cross pen, or what is it? The Parker. There are some very good brands, but you should get a good pen set that you can have to kind of increase your presence, and it's just a good look. You may also want to look at your professional online profile, your LinkedIn page. I mentioned that. That's how I met Saida Khan. So if you haven't done much with LinkedIn, you should probably look at that page and figure out ways that you can make a better presence. Twitter, having a professional Twitter account apart from your personal account. YouTube channel, perhaps, especially if you're in the arts or if you're in media, blog. And make sure you check your search results. Put your name in, hit return, and see what comes up. That's a part of making sure that when somebody looks you up in Google, that what occurs at the top is going to be positive. So you want to make sure that you get your most positive documents at the top of the search results so that, of course, people can have a good impression of you. When you're going out for these positions now, and you all know this is true, they get your resume, they get back to the office, and they do a Google search. They look at your social media, they look at Instagram, they look at Snapchat, they look at all of your posts, and they read your post, and they try to figure out, is this person the type of person we want at this company? And this is a very common thing, and I know I have been rudely awakened with some of the things that I have seen for some of my students who have asked me for recommendation letters. And when I go on and I do a Google search, and I see some things on Twitter that they're posting, I'm wondering, is this the same person? And I still write the letter, but be that as it may, it's you don't want those types of surprises. So as I stated, you will have 4 documents, your personal, or not 4 documents, but 4 elements of your personal branding portfolio. You'll have your mission statement, you'll have your SWOT analysis, which will be separate piece. Your resume will be a separate piece, 1 page. I have some stories about the 1-pager. When I was an undergrad, I had a 2-page resume. I had a lot of stuff on there, a lot of activities. I was involved in a lot of things, and I thought they were all good. And so I had a mentor, and I showed him my resume because we were involved in the same organization, and I was competing for an honor, and he looked at my resume, and he did this. He looked at it, he gave it back, and he said it needs to be 1 page. And I said, what do you mean? He says, you got to make it 1 page. And I'm thinking, well, what do I cut? He says, I don't know, but it needs to be 1 page. And I'm thinking, all these things are important. But then, of course, you have to make adjustments, and then you come to that point where you streamline what it is you're trying to tell the person looking at the resume. Your resume is an important document, so all of the spellings, the way it's lined up, the heading, the font, the type of paper, getting some good cotton paper. You want your resume printed on cotton paper because everybody else is going to have printer paper. I have a printer here, and I reach in there and I make notes on it. I wouldn't do that with cotton paper because cotton paper is good quality, and the ink sinks in the cotton. It makes it a lot more precise. The printing is a lot more precise. So you have to invest in yourself and have a brand that you're proud of, and that exudes more confidence when you present. And when you pull out that pen, somebody will say, this person means business. If you pull out a pen like this, it may not give the same impression as if you pull out a pen. As I said, even a cross pen is good, but something like this will be better. On your left, this pen will be the best of all. And you don't have to pay a whole lot for these pens. But anyway, that's it. Due October 13th. And as I said, you already have some of these that you may have even done this in another class. And so all you have to do is brush it. Just brush off the old assignment and put it together, update it a bit, make your 1-year plan, strategic plan, based upon what improvements that you plan to make, whether it be professional improvements, public speaking, language, personal presentation, health and fitness, losing weight, buying suits, getting pens, getting stationery, updating your resume. All of those things will be part of your strategic plan to reach your goal. Okay? So that's all I'm going to say. That is the briefing for the self-branding project. Now we're at the 20-minute mark, and I wanted to show you a couple of things. Now I know that in the presentation that we saw from Miss Saida Khan, she was talking about bribery and corruption. And I want us to kind of revisit this part of her presentation. And so take a listen.
Now, as you may know, if someone does something wrong and isn't acting on behalf of your company, you are going to be held liable. And that's what happened down in related to the allegations that started in Mexico, where there were the third-party intermediaries we were using were allegedly paying bribes to foreign officials. So they could be saying, for example, we want to get these licenses quicker. Let's pay a bribe, or we want to get this shipment across the border. Let's pay a bribe to the customs agent, things like that, right? So we have to, so because of those allegations, they were in Mexico and then subsequently in India, Brazil, and China. Walmart became under investigation. So the last 7 years or so, Walmart has been under investigation. And during this time, we've built this robust compliance program. So this compliance program covers 14 subject matters, everything from license and permits, health and safety, food safety, and the biggest one is anti-corruption. So because of this, we have teams in each of the markets that do reviews of these third parties to make sure that they've been screened properly, to make sure that they've signed a contract saying that they are not allowed to do any type of bribes or misconduct as it relates to business that's done on behalf of Walmart.
So I wanted you all to hear that. And later on, Ms. Khan made mention of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, 1977. It is something that we hear about a lot in global business because it forbids American executives from either giving bribes or receiving bribes in the process of doing business. This would not just be money or a payoff under the table. This is also in the form of any gifts that might give you an advantage over the competition, or even a favor where no money or nothing tangible in terms of physically tangible is exchanged, but you're getting a favor, or it might be you getting access to something. So this is a very important piece of legislation that was revealed in 1977, and there have been others after that. So if you look on page, and I was actually just looking at this page, if you look in your book on pages 70 and 71, you'll see a lot of the pieces of legislation when you start talking about these laws, which includes things like Children's Online Privacy Protection Act of 2000, Do Not Call Implementation Act, that was directed at the FCC and the FTC, the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act of 2010. They don't have the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. So those are very important pieces of legislation when you do business overseas. But I also wanted to show you this. We talk about ethics. You can't talk about ethics and corporate social responsibility unless you talk about Transparency International. This company whose tagline is the Global Coalition Against Corruption. And on this page, you will find a corruption perceptions index. This is of 2019. And they have a color-coded map that shows you the darker the color, the higher the incidences of corruption will be. And you can look at the color-coded map and you can see where America stands over here. And of course, they have the scale. So the lower your score, the higher the incidences of corruption. And you can also download the data set here, which I have actually downloaded for your convenience. And I'll pull it up in just a minute. I have a window here, but they're all tucked underneath. And I would just show you this spreadsheet. So as you can see, it's pretty comprehensive. You have all of this data, and they have all of these different ratings across the top. And this is good because it gives you a lot of different ratings. But one of the things about these types of tables is, of course, the criteria of how do you get these ratings? What is the criteria? Because you look at the countries, you look at Denmark being number 1, New Zealand, Finland, Singapore, Sweden, Switzerland, Norway, Netherlands, Germany, Luxembourg, Iceland, Australia, and you get down to America, United States of America, which is number 27. And you have mostly other industrial nations. You have Japan at 23, and it goes south after that. So as you go down, you see how the ratings are going down as well. And who's in last place? Somalia, which has had civil strife for the better part of 30 years now, actually longer. But 1990, there was a very famous conflict in Somalia, and there is a movie made about that conflict, and that movie is called Black Hawk Down. Very exciting movie, another one of those kind of thrillers that if you have a couple of hours, it'll be worth that time. And then you have other nations within developing regions that are low on the list. But here's my thing that I want to leave with you, and there is actually another map that shows you the progress that countries have made, the statistical changes that have been made over the years. And you see some countries have actually gone down. Canada has gone down 7 points. Australia has gone down 8 points. And other nations have increased their status. And we see Senegal went up 9 points, which is encouraging because you hear a lot of negative things about Africa. But a lot of African nations have upticks. You look at Ethiopia, you look at Cote d'Ivoire, you look at Malawi. Malawi actually went down from number 31, which is actually a pretty decent rating to have. The U.S. being 27. So here's my question, folks. You look at corruption, and we know what corruption is. But you ask, how is it that the rich countries are least corrupt? They are the poorest in terms of resources, but they are the richest. You have the poorer nations, developing nations, which have the most resources, but they're poor. How did that happen? How did the rich nations get the resources, and the poor nations, which have all the resources, and I'm talking about the copper, the diamonds, the iron ore, the bauxite, all of the wealth that is needed for an industrial society, poorer nations have. But how is it that they are poor while they have all the wealth? That leads you to believe that something had happened. Now, we saw life and debt, and we understand the financial mechanisms of this system and how some developing nations who don't have the factor endowments to compete may be mired in a cycle of mediocrity in terms of their productive capacity. And so when you look at corruption and you say, oh, these poor nations are corrupt, you hear that a lot. Well, you look at history and you look at rich nations and you look at how they got their wealth. And I'm not just talking about slavery, I'm talking about the mechanism, the mechanized system which gives certain nations an advantage and other nations a disadvantage. And you look at some of these cases, you look at the cases, even the ones that we know. You look at these corruption scandals, these big cases, a lot of them are in rich nations. We're talking about the Enrons, we're talking about the Parmalat of Italy, we're talking about MicroStrategy, we're talking about Barings Bank in England, we're talking about these major scandals. And one of the differences in corruption, we're talking about ethics here, one of the differences in corruption between developing nations and developed nations is it's a difference in terms of the level of corruption. Meaning that if you go to a poor nation, you'll see corruption openly, meaning that somebody may come up to you in the airport and they may say, can I see your ticket? They're working at the airport. Can I see your ticket? You show them your ticket. They pull you out of line. They say, you're about to miss your flight. I'm going to run you up there so you can make your flight. And you think, okay, I am running close. They pull you out of line and they take you to another line with the agreement is that you'll pay them and you'll give them a good tip, $50 or whatever the case may be, whatever you have that you can give them. And this is what you'll see. You'll see it openly in some places. Or you'll see someone, you go into customs, they take your passport, they look at the passport, and if you're an American, they're thinking, okay, this guy has money. They can afford this processing fee. They come up with a processing fee, and you think, I don't know anything about a processing fee. This is a processing fee just so you can expedite your passport, your visa. And so what do? Maybe you pay it. Now, of course, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, you're not supposed to be giving these bribes. But sometimes you're in situations that you don't know what to do and you don't know the system. And then you say, okay, I just need to move on. And you go and you give them this fee because they're telling you it's a fee and they're official. They're in an official capacity and they're taking this money. And by all practical purposes, you may think, okay, that might be the way things are here. I just didn't know about it. But yeah, you have this going on. So it's open. Now, corruption in America, in Europe, and all these other rich countries is hidden. You don't see it. So if you can't see it, you can't count it. But when you do see it, when it comes to light, it's usually in billions of dollars. Not 100 US dollars or chump change that somebody is asking for in an airport or on the street, or they're trying to make a deal in a contract and they want 1,000 US, which is peanuts. But of course it's open and it's what is expected in some places, as opposed to rich nations. Oh, they got to go high. You're dealing in billions of dollars. And we have a situation now in this country where President Trump, his tax returns have been studied and they have made some revelations about his business dealings and the lack of his paying taxes, and also claiming to have had businesses worth in the millions. And so they're actually looking through that and kind of determining whether there was some malfeasance that that had been violated or malfeasance that had been done with in his business dealings. And so that's where we are. We talk about ethics and corruption, and we can talk about this for a very long time because there are a lot of cases. But that's all I'll say today. We're at about a half an hour, and I did say this was going to be quick. This class is supposed to be 75 minutes, but we're not going to do that today. You're going to take this quiz, and it's going to take you all of about 10 minutes, 15 at most, and then you'll be ready to start your weekend. So hopefully you will be working on your self-branding projects. Those will be due again October 13th. And I'm looking forward to reading your profiles, and hopefully you'll have some good plans that you can execute. And I think I may also do this with you as well, so that I can also build a better brand for myself. Okay? So I'll see you all on next Tuesday, and we will be discussing Chapter 5. And if you have any questions on the self-branding project, you can send me an email. And if you want to do office hours, I would ask that you contact me and give me a heads up beforehand. That way I can open up the Zoom room as opposed to waiting for hours at a time. And a lot of time no one shows up. So I think it's more precise. If you contact me, we can set a time, or I can go right to the room, and then we can have your issue taken care of. Okay? So that's all I'm going to say today, and have a good weekend, and I'll see you Tuesday.